The Blues coach, Michael Voss.
There's plenty in there and enough great periods of games where, it's something to model off. The right now is that whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes or one error here or there, we haven't been able to string our games together, and the results in our losses are saying that we're somewhere in that 2 to 3 goal range, that we're losing games. So we've got to find out how we bridge that gap to make ourselves a better footy team.
So that is very interesting comments from Michael Voss. Where do they find those 2 or 3 goals? Well, I tell you what, at the start of this season, they faced a par 3. It was the 3rd easiest fixture according to champion data. It was a short straight par 3, and they are in the trees looking at a triple bogey, because this football club is disappointed not only this season but for the past season and a half, coming off a preliminary final of 2023. And the answer that is staring everyone in the face at Carlton is they need to recalibrate. Now, in particular this. Now, when you talk about the departure of Tom de Koning, there's been a lot of negative headlines. Well, Graham Wright's the new CEO there at the Blues, and he faced this same situation with Brodie Grundy at Collingwood when there was a lot of discussion about that. Brodie Grundy was traded out at the end of 22. They brought in 4 players: Tom Mitchell, Billy Frampton, Dan McStay and Bobby Hill. Now, the most they go for those players was a future second-round pick, a future third for Frampton. McStay came for nothing as a free agent. They got pick 25 as part of the Tom Mitchell, Ollie Henry deal. So it doesn't cost a lot to recalibrate your list. And when you watch Carlton play, David King, what is it to you that they are missing? Because the other clubs, the top of the ladder, playing the modern game on the outside with precision and run and dare off halfback and small forwards. Carlton is still trying to beat up teams in the clearances. There is an obvious gap and some missing links in this team and in this list. And they should be unafraid with the Tom de Koning departure to try and fill some of those up.
Yeah, small forward with speed and class. They don't really have that. And you'd have to say a half-back flanker who plays the modern freewheeling style. And maybe they have to sacrifice a gun midfielder at half-back. Maybe Sam Walsh has to go to half-back just to get that type of player into your club. They just don't seem to have it.
I think we forget how important Nick Newman was in that role. Nick Newman was the distributor. He was one of their best ball users.
It's one injury though, Joe.
That's one, but they've got 7 or 8 injuries. I mean, I look at that.
Who else can play that role?
Who else could play that role? Elijah Hollins hasn't played a lot of footy. He's one of their better users. Could they maybe try him behind the ball? They've tried their brother, his brother, I should say. Yeah. Jagger Smith was meant to have an impact. I know he's a first-year player, but he was picked 3 and they haven't seen him at all. He had the outside running class that they were meant to bring. So I think they've had a bad run with injury as well as the ordinary football that they've been playing.
I think they see a list cliff coming, and unless they're prepared to be brave, I think this premiership window could in fact shut on them, because they've been doing the same thing for a long time, and they're 4 and 7, and that is with the easiest straw. So I don't think Michael Voss can keep banging his head up against that brick wall and expect different results. And they need to start beating teams on the outside, and they're only going to do that when Michael Voss probably has that in his toolbox, because I don't see that in particular at the moment.
So outside the 8 with a 4 and 7 record, I think the short-sighted surface level question here is, can they fix things and turn it around and play finals this year? But Kingy, is more the question, a deeper question, is are they on the right path to win a flag?
Yeah, and it's a tough one if you're a Carlton fan, because you look at their top half a dozen players and they're generally in the spine. You say, gee, we're well stacked. We're right in it. We're right in this season. And then you look forward to the ball. I think their 2 main issues are they lack a small forward with speed, with tackle pressure, that can create something from nothing. We just talked about the Giants. They've got about 5 of them.
Yep.
And this list doesn't have any. And then you go to half-back, and the half-back flank has become the most aggressive position in the game in 2025. If you don't have 2 or 3, you're falling behind. And Carlton don't. They have Adam Saad, but he plays on the best small forward for the opposition. He doesn't freewheel. So I think they're missing a couple of tricks in terms of the makeup of their 23, let alone their list. So there's some failures there. Now, how deep you want this to go and how long you want this to run is up to Michael Voss and his troops.
What about, though, the way they're playing?
The way they play, they virtually have to bash.
They play with what they've got.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what they've got, and you've mentioned those spine players, is they're all contest players. Like Cripps is a contest player, Harry Mackay is a contest player, Curnow, Wiedering, Walsh and de Koning. They're their 6 best players. They are all contest players. So they play with what they've got. They play contest footy, and they don't have the outside run or the luxury that a lot of other sides do. So they sort of are playing the way that they think is the best way for them to win. Now, we saw them win against Geelong, and they beat Geelong in the contest and beat them. And Geelong, we think, are probably one of the better teams in the competition. But then contest wears thin sometimes. It becomes hard to do week in, week out. And they're just not doing it for long enough at the moment.
They're still trying to beat teams in the clinches. I mean, they won the contested possession plus 38. It's how you use it, right? It's the ball use. Games are being won on the outside these days, and you have a look at their list, to your point, Kingy, and they don't have it. So at the end of this year, whatever happens for the rest of this season, and they don't look like a top 4 contender, a premiership contender at this point, they've got to retool this list. And the Tom De Koning departure gives them that opportunity, right? So that's $1 million off their book. Now, Graham Wright was at Collingwood when Brodie Grundy left. He left. They brought in 4 players, Adam Treloar's departure as well, and they won a flag in 12 months' time. Graham Wright will be looking at this situation, look at this imperfect list, this imperfect style, and looking at how we recalibrate. So there's an opportunity in every crisis, and I think that'll be the situation they confront, because, as you guys have just pointed out, the modern game is requiring different things, and Carlton aren't up to that at the moment.
What does he get back? What do you get back for Tom De Koning? If he let's say if he does leave and he goes to St Kilda for the reported $1.7 million or whatever it is, what will they get back as compensation?
Because the offer is so big in the first instance, so 1.7 a year, Carlton's salary cap is jammed. They're not going to be able to match that. It means that it becomes a free agency compensation pick, one tied to their ladder position. Yeah. So Carlton doesn't have a first round pick as it stands, right? They traded that off last year. So they get one pick for his, and if they finish 10th, it's pick 8 or whatever it is. And that pick 8 becomes very, very important, because it's a light draft, it's a lean draft. So how they can bring in probably established players potentially, I mean, that's the decision they'll confront.
Yeah, and I think they have an oversupply in areas. And I think the key forward discussions are beauty. They need aggressive halfbacks and small forwards with class and speed, preferably, rather than 2 key targets forward of the ball. I think Harry Mackay is someone they could probably look at, that player, that magnet, that position, to trade.
Split up the Twin Towers.
I think so, because the game's sort of gone away from that a little bit. And is it really an absolute area of strength for them? How many times do you sit back and say, those two playing like this today were the reason we won?
It's a bit cool.
I don't think we say it often enough about those 2 players. So they're the sorts of aggressive decisions they're going to have to make.
If they were to potentially trade Harry Mackay, you'd think Sydney would be the perfect landing position. They are after a dominant key forward. Harry Mackay.
Do you agree with that, Jack, though, that Carlton should look at that?
Want a flag with 1 key forward?
It's certainly... There's certain times this year that they've only had one through injury, and they have looked a little bit better. They've looked fleet of foot. They've probably looked a little bit more modern. And we see other sides playing with a lot of small forwards. They played against the side today, King. Yeah, he had a suite of them. Is that you can't just go and find good players and pick them up at pick 70 or pick 40 and stuff like that. If you want an established good player, you've got to give something up. That's the reality of the game. He's a commodity that they would love to keep, obviously, Harry Mackay, but they've got to give up something if they want to get that speed in, because they don't have it at the moment. And Nick Newman's probably the only one, and he's still probably a month away with an Achilles injury.
When you play like this, when your brand is an outlier to the competition, which theirs is really, it's contest, it's bashing teams at clearance, and even forward of the ball. Really, they have to win contests to score. Nothing comes easy for Carlton. You can beat anyone, right? They beat Geelong, played a tough as nails game of footy. They can beat it, but consistently, ball movement will beat contest, is what we're saying. They're 1-5 against the top 8 sides this year. So that's where they're at. So they make decisions on the now, not what it looks like on paper or what it potentially could look like. That's pie in the sky stuff. They've got to make a decision on what they're living right now.
You can play finals and make the 8, but you can't win a flag with it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you've got to set to win the premiership, don't you? If they think this is the premiership list, then roll on. But I don't know if they do. I think that Michael Voss knows that this is how he has to play, much to what Jack said. They have to play this way because of the stocks they've